Welcome back to Alien Agenda. This is Cliff, your substitute narrator, as Jordan is currently on a quick vacation. Anyway, today we're diving into two especially compelling UFO encounters. First, the dramatic Cash-Landrum incident of 1980, and then we fast forward to 2018 for the color-shifting object above Baffin Island in Canada. These incidents stand out not only for their vivid details, but for their potential implications. Are these truly signs of something not of this Earth? Let's investigate. Here's Colonel Gene.
Hi, this is Colonel Gene again from Alien Agenda with more interesting sightings of UFOs. One is called the Cash-Landrum incident. This sighting took place on December the 29th, 1980, and it is different in two ways from other sightings that I have uncovered. First, the craft sighted was a diamond-shaped and expelled flames from the underneath side of the craft. In almost all the other cases, there were no signs of propulsion, flames, noise, or anything else. But in this particular case, it was definitely one that had fire coming from the base similar to our rockets. The other difference was that there was an intense heat that surrounded the object, which turned out to be coming from high levels of radiation. Another sighting was by a pilot over Baffin Island in Canada on November the 24th, 2018, which was reported to the Canadian Civil Aviation Authority, as well as to the North American Air Defense Command, NORAD. Let's take a look at these two incidents. Betty Cash, Vicki Landrum, and Vicki's 7-year-old grandson, Colby, were driving home to Dayton, Texas on December the 29th at 1980 at about 8 p.m. when they saw a huge diamond-shaped craft in the sky in front of them. This craft hovered over the trees, and there was a large flame coming out of the bottom of the craft. The two women got out of the car to get a better look. The little boy, however, was terrified, and Vicki decided to return to the car to comfort him. Betty Cash, however, remained outside just staring at the craft that was metallic silver, as I said, looked like a diamond, and was about the size of a water tower. Cash reported that the heat was very intense, and each time the craft neared the road, a blast of flames came out of the craft and it rose into the air. The heat was very uncomfortable, and when Betty decided to get back into her car, the metal of her car was hot, and her hand was burned on the door handle when she opened the car door. Vicki said that when she put her hand on the dashboard, the vinyl was soft from the heat, and it left her handprint on the vinyl dashboard. Investigators later took pictures of Vicki's handprint on the dashboard, and this evidence was shown on the 1985 HBO documentary called What's Going On. The women reported they watched as helicopters surrounded this craft, and from the description of the helicopters, they were thought to be most likely CH-47 Chinook helicopters. The encounter lasted about 20 minutes, and then the woman reported that the copters disappeared with the craft into the distance. Both women drove home and went to Vicki's and went to bed. That evening, they reported having nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. They felt weakness and a burning sensation like they had been sunburned. Betty Cash's symptoms were much worse, and she developed large blisters over the next few days. On January the 3rd, she was taken to the hospital for 12 days. After her release, she was not much better and was returned to the hospital for another 2 weeks. She lost patches of her skin, clumps of her hair fell out. Pictures of her injuries were shown again on the 1985 HBO documentary, and her diagnosis was that she was suffering from radiation sickness. Vicki Landrum's symptoms were similar but not nearly as severe as Betty Cash's. In 1981, Vicki developed a cataract in one eye, and Betty Cash was treated for breast cancer in 1983. 8 months after this incident, during an interview at Bergstrom Air Force Base, Betty Cash drew a sketch of a craft she saw. Colby, the 7-year-old boy, confirmed, quote, It looked like a big diamond, end quote. In May 1982, a UFO investigator interviewed a Dayton police officer, a Lamar Walker, who reported seeing about a dozen Chinook-type helicopters at night in that same area. He, however, did not report seeing any sort of spacecraft. The women finally contacted their U.S. Senators Lloyd Bentsen and John Tower. They suggested that the women contact the judge advocate at Bergstrom Air Force Base, and the two later sued the government. However, there was no evidence of any Air Force involvement, and the case was dismissed in August 1986. This incident was also covered on the ABC News show That's Incredible in 1981, and they were interviewed by Mike Farrell in 1998 on the UFO Cover-Up Show. They also appeared on Unresolved Mysteries. Betty Cash died at age 69, 18 years to the day of this encounter. Vicky died in 2007 at the age of 83. The claim of radiation injuries and the flames from the spacecraft make this encounter different from others that I have uncovered. In November 24th, 2018, at about 6:40 p.m., pilots reported seeing an unidentified flying object as they approached May River Iron Mine in northern Baffin Island, Canada. The pilots reported that the craft changed colors from red to green to white, and they filed a report with the Canadian officials and also with NORAD. This encounter was also reported on Newsweek News as well as Arctic Business Journal. The pilot said, quote, "It came up on our left side and rapidly veered to the north. We did not think it was likely to have a collision course," end quote. A group called Ufology Research reported that over 1,100 UFO sightings had been reported in Canada during 2017. On September the 16th, 2016, a hiker saw a bunch of star-like objects moving in sequence in the sky over Ellicott, Canada. In 2011, a man saw a bright blue rotating light circling another light in a place called Ellicott. Another 60 people in these areas witnessed this same event in 2011, and a video was posted on YouTube of what they saw. The reported sightings that continue in Canada persist and add to the mystery of UFO sightings around the world. Again, I hope you were intrigued by these sightings and that you will join us next time as we continue to uncover more and more evidence that seems to show we are not alone. This is Colonel Gene signing off. Don't forget, if you have a first-hand encounter and would like to be interviewed on Alien Agenda, please contact Deborah Wallace, my publicist, at deborah@pcm.agency. Until next time, stay safe.
In our world without Hitler, Sam Weiss and his friends journey through time to prevent Hitler's rise, reshaping history in unimaginable ways. From 1919 Germany to a drastically altered 2018, their thrilling adventures explore identity, sacrifice, and the ripple effects of rewriting the path. A gripping historical time travel masterpiece. Grab your copy from Amazon Books or visit GenePAbelBooks.com today.